Okay, shalom. We're beginning a new series on halachic measurements. Now, the culmination of this will be a discussion of the machlokas that is widely known in the Jewish world as an argument between the Chazon Ish and Rav Avram Chaim Noah about halachic measurements. But this week and next week, God willing, we'll do some of the foundations, which is about shiurim or halachic measurements in general. This week and next week. Next week, it will be based on an idea in an article by this week also. But this week and next week are going to be based on an article by the Minchas Asher of Asher Weiss. So it'll be nostalgia for the way the Chaburi used to be. He has a nice development in his Sefer on Dvarim, and he also has a nice development on his Shilos and Shilos and Shuvas. So that'll be we'll learn this. It's a pan achronim topic. Many achronim get into the discussion. This week we'll meet the Tzlach and the Netziv. Next week, one of Rav Asher Weiss's personal developments, and then afterwards we'll see that once again the Tzlach, which is the Note of Yehuda, Rabbi Yechezkel Landau of Prague, he gets into the topic. His Talmud, that'll be, God willing, 3 weeks from now, and then we'll see how the Chazon Ish, Rav Avram Chaim Noah, and some others get into the topic. Now. Without further ado, okay. Here's the opening of that article. Originally, in the first email, I think I sent out the other article, which is in the Shilos and Shuvas, but then when I resent today, I made sure it was the Devarim article. It's on the pasuk in Getzina of Eretz Chita U'Seorah. We'll see in a minute. If you ask most people, halachic measurements, what is their origin? Where do they come from? So they will quote the well-quoted Gemara in Sukkah. It also appears, I think, in Eruvin. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Rashi, Amar Rav, Shiurin, Chatzitzin, Umechitzin, Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. These are three examples of dinim that are referred to as halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Shiurim, which is halachic measurements. Chatzitzin are the rules of chatzitza, the rules of what is considered an impediment. Let's say for tefillah, if somebody immerses and there's something on the body, what is considered a blocking the water from making contact with the body. And mechitzin are all sorts of halachic partitions. So they are the status of halacha l'Moshe Sinai. If you look at the Rambam's introduction to the Mishnah Torah and the Rambam's introduction to the Mishnah, so he divides halacha into, excuse me, 6 categories. Biblical halachas, where the Torah says a mitzvah, and the oral Torah explains what the words of the Torah are. So, for instance, the Torah says to take the 4 species, and the oral Torah, through the oral Torah, Hashem tells us also what exactly those 4 species are. So when it says Pri Eitz Hadar, when it says the fruit of a beautiful tree, so we know that the fruit of that beautiful tree is the esrog. That's an example of where there's something written in the written Torah and explained by the oral Torah. Then there is pure oral Torah, which is referred to as halacha l'Moshe Sinai, which is, although again the whole Torah was l'Moshe Sinai. The whole oral Torah, the written Torah, a lot was on Sinai afterwards during the 40 years. But this particular expression usually means something that is pure oral Torah, and not written in the Chumash. Again, the other types of halachas are things learned out through the principles of extracting drushas, which we refer to as the midot she'ator nidrash bahem. That's also a biblical. Those are biblical halachas when we apply kal v'chomer, gzera shava, binyanav, klal uprat, etc. to the chumash. And then there's three types of rabbinic laws. The Rambam lists siagim, fences, takanas, which are decrees, and the Rambam has a category that is the Rabbanan called minhagos or minhagim, and an example of that, which would be, let's say, taking the arava on Oshana Rabbah. That would be a good example of that. Anyways, so if you would ask anybody, Gemara and Sukkah, shiurim, things like kizayit, revit, arbaim sa, etc., those are all halach l'moshe Messiah. That would be the first knee-jerk reaction based on that Gemara. The Gemara, though, asks, shiurim d'oraisa ninu. They're biblical. Dichsi, for there's a pasuk that says, Eretz chita, usiora, v'gefen uteina, v'rimon, Eretz zeit shemen udvash. It mentions the 7 species, and each of the 7 species, it connects with a particular shiur. So Rav Chanin says, Kol pasuk hazel shiur nema. That whole pasuk is referring to different halachic measurements. Chita is wheat. Well, it's the amount of time somebody is in a house that has leprosy of houses, of tzaras of houses, and the Mishnah says, Hanichnas levaisa menuga, somebody goes into one of these houses that has the tzaras, v'kelev aktevav, and his clothing is on his shoulders, v'sandalav tabosav biado, and it's his sandals, his rings are in his hands. They're all tamim immediately. However, if he was dressed with his clothing and his shoes were on his feet and his rings were on his fingers. By the way, you see, you ever see the elderly Sephardi men? They have rings on their fingers. It would not be in vogue in the yeshivas nowadays to have rings on your fingers. Whatever the case, if he's wearing his rings on his fingers, hu tamei miyad, the person becomes tamei immediately. Vehein tehorin, the clothing that he's wearing is still tahor ad sheyasheh b'chtei achilas pras, until he stays in the house the amount of time which we refer to as kedei achilas pras. How much that is? It's the amount of time to eat a certain loaf of bread. Pas chitin velo pas seorin mesa va'ocha b'liftan. To calculate that time, which again, if I remember correctly, the poskim have a range of shitas that go from 4 to 9 minutes, so maybe even smaller. It's wheat and not barley bread, and it's eaten with some kind of a spread, something that you dip it in, as opposed to if you eat bread straight, which probably takes a little longer. Now, that's just one of them. Seora, barley, titzan, etzem kiseora, the halacha of tumas, the tuma of a bone, even if the bone is the size of a barley bean, that would still metame b'mago masa. That would already become tamei through actual physical contact or carrying it, even if you're not actually touching it. Gefen kedei ravis yain lenazir. That's the din of a ravis, a wine for a nazir. That for a nazir to break his vow, it would be through the dinim. The shear is a ravis. Te'ena kigrogeres lo tzal Shabbos. The dried fig is one of the shiurim for hotza'ah, for taking something from one domain to another. Rimon, pomegranates, non kol clay balibatim shiurim karimonim, that the opening of a kli, of a vessel, in order to consider it not tamei, is the size of a pomegranate. If a pomegranate, then that opening would fall out. It wouldn't be able to even hold a pomegranate. Eretz zeit shemen, olive oil, Utvash. So first it says Eretz Shemen. Eretz Shekol Shiurim Kazes. The land where all the Shiurim are Kazes, the size of an olive. Kol Shiurim, how could that? All Shiurim? You just mentioned 5 of them that are not Kazai. Haikahani Damrina, there are these that we said. Elaima Shevrov Shiurei Kazes. Most of the Shiurim are Kazai. Okay, that would be like matzah and korbanos, whatever. Now, Tevash ki choseves hagasa b'yom kippurim. The size of a date is the way of calculating how much would be mechayev you for eating on Yom Kippur. So you see that the pasuk teaches you all about the shiurim. This is where the range of shiurim are. So you're telling me that shiurim are halacha l'Moshe Sinai, oral Torah, pure oral Torah. It's written in this pasuk. And it's Alma D'Oraisa. Apparently they're biblical. Says the Gemara, B'Tisper, does that make sense? Shiurim miksive, are the shiurim written actually? It's just the fruit are written. It says it's the land of Israel is blessed with all these different types of produce, but it doesn't say the shiurim. Ella, hilchasininu, they are halachas, meaning halacha l'Moshe Sinai. All those shiurim that we mentioned, the wheat and the barley and all those shiurim are really halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Ukra asmachta ba'almahu, and the pasuk itself is what we refer to as an asmachta, excuse me, where we connect it to a verse, but the source isn't the verse; it's connected to that verse. Okay, so that's the basic source about the halachic level, if you will, of shiurim. They are biblical. And the type of biblical halacha is pure oral Torah, halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Okay, there are 2 seemingly contradictory sugyas. One sugya is a Gemara in Brachos, which starts the same way, the same quote from this Rav Chanan, Kol ha-pasuk kula l'shiurim nemar. The whole pasuk is talking about shiurim. Chita detala nichtas l'bayis. It starts the same thing. Chita and seora and gefen uteina v'rimon zeit shemen and dvash. It says everything. But then, asmachta is when there's a halacha whose source isn't in the pasuk, but we connect it to the pasuk. So the pasuk isn't the source of this halacha. The halacha Moshe Sinai is pure oral Torah. So when Hashem told it to Moshe, and Moshe would, let's say Moshe were to ask, no, where is this written? Does this come out of one of the psukim? And Hashem would say, no, I'm just telling you, it's oral Torah, pass it on to Am Yisrael. Later on, though, maybe as a mnemonic, they connected it to that halacha. A hekesh, though, is one of the principles of drashas, where 2 things that are adjacent to each other in the Chumash, so we can learn out one from the other, and that's something, a kind of biblical halacha, where we are learning something out from the pasuk itself. Here, we're not learning something out from the pasuk. The law was taught orally, but later on, as a mnemonic, let's say, I'm saying it as one approach to it, it's connected to the pasuk, but it's not. The pasuk isn't the source. With a hekesh, it is the source. It's a type of drasha. Okay, there's a Gemara in Brachos, which seems to be exactly the same, but it ends. Ela midrabanan ukra asmachta ba'almahu. It's rabbinic, and the pasuk is an asmachta. So that's strange. It seems to be the exact same kind of a source, and the exact same development, but the end is the opposite. So there was one of the achronim, the Maratz Chayes, Rav Tzvi Hirsch Chayes. We have a book of his translated into English, A Student's Introduction of the Talmud. And he deals with all sorts of textual issues and historical issues. Anyways, so in his commentary on Brachos, he suggests that this is a problem, and there's a problem here in the Girsa, in the actual text of the Gemara in Brachos, V'tzorach lomar, and it really should say, like it does in the other Gemaras, that shiurim are deoraisa ukra asmachta ba'alma, meaning it should be the same way as that other Gemara in Sukkah, and it also appears in Eruvin, and here it should also appear in Brachos. It's a mistake. V'chele, in his strength, meaning his proof, is midiri Rambam Akdam Asel Perish Mishnah Shaisa Girsa Lefanav Ella Midoraisa across Makdam Alma. So the Rambam also in his Hakdama to the Mishnah quotes this same Gemara, and he quotes it as Midoraisa. So that's that's a strong support. And the Marshal Rav Shlomo Luria, Shlomo Luria was a contemporary with Rav Yosef Karo. So we have him, the Rav Shlomo Luria, he's printed in the Gemaras, his comments. He has a very important book called Yam Shel Shlomo, which is on Bava Kama. Others also, I forget which other Masechtas. In our Shasas, we have this initial Girsa, and that's what it says. So that is very striking. It sounds that we have a source in the Gemara that shiurim, that halacha measurements, are d'Rabbanan. Comment. Okay, very nice. Okay, interesting. Thank you, Ariel. Asmachta. I will mention, by the way, we see asmachta a lot of times with regards to d'Rabbanans, where something is rabbinic and we say, but the pasuk is only an asmachta. Here, it's the opposite. It's that the pasuk is d'oraisa. Excuse me, the din is d'oraisa, and that d'oraisa din is a halach l'Moshe Sinai, not in the oral Torah, not in the written Torah, excuse me, but it is connected with the written Torah. Now, there is another Gemara which implies also against the core Gemara. The core Gemara implies that everything's halach l'Moshe Sinai. That Gemara in Bracha seems to say that shiurim are d'Rabbanan. There's another Gemara, this is the Gemara in Yoma, that seems to say that the shiurim of punishments are halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Amar Rabbi Yochanan shiurim ve'onshin halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Says the Gemara, onshin michtav k'tivi. What do you mean? The punishments are halacha l'Moshe Sinai? How the punishments are written in the Torah? All over the place we have punishments mentioned. Ella hachi. This is what Rabbi Yochanan really meant. He didn't mean shiurim and onshim as two separate items. Ella shiurim shel onshim. The amounts that are needed for particular punishments, the fact that you get a punishment only if you had a shiur, that is a halacha l'Moshe Sinai. 39 lashes. No, it would be, this means not only 39 lashes. This would mean, let's say, even the fact that you would only get makos if you had a kazayis of chazer or the like. So those shiurim are halach l'Moshe Sinai. Tanya nami hachi. There's another brisa. By the way, what you mentioned about the 39 lashes, so that's the oral Torah's explanation of Arba'im Yaken Lo Yosif. But here, this is a broad statement about all the amounts that are of particular averas that are required for the punishment. So, Tanya Namiyachi, there's a brisa that says, shiurim shel onshim, and here it says explicitly shel onshim. The shiurim, the amounts of punishments. Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. Acherim omrim beis dino shel yavetz tiknum v'aksiv ela mitzvah she'en avi rishai lechadesh davar mi'ata ela shchachum v'chazur v'yastum. Okay, there is another approach, but the other approach at the end, the conclusion of the Gemara is that the shiurim of punishments are also halacha l'Moshe Sinai, but they were reinstated eventually. Now, the Orach L'Ner, it was Rav Yaakov Ettlinger, who was a Rav in Germany. If I'm not mistaken, he was the Rebbe of Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch. So he said on this Gemara that, it is what it says, that it is not all shiurim that are halach l'Moshe Sinai, but it is the shiurim of punishments, like forbidden foods and eating on Yom Kippur, where the Torah gave a shiur, a halachic measurement. So that's a very interesting approach. It goes against an explicit Yerushalmi, says Rav Asher Weiss. Again, this is all Rav Asher Weiss's halachas. Amar Rabbi Yossi Barbun, Rabbi Yochanan Kedate, Rabbi Yochanan Kedate, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Kol HaShiurim Halach LeMoshe Misim. All shiurim. So not just on punishments, but also on mitzvahs. Also, Halach LeMoshe Misinai. There's another approach. That was the Orach L'Ner. If you don't want to say like the Orach L'Ner, because it seems too radical that Gemara in Yoma is going against these other Gemaras. So the Rashash is printed. His comments are printed in the end of the Gemara. He has on a lot of material. I think he might even have on every Masech. I don't remember. So he says as follows. This Rabbi Yochanan, who says here that the shiurim of punishments is halacha l'Moshe Misinai, implying that only the shiurim of punishments are halacha l'Moshe Misinai, is in line with the way Rabbi Yochanan holds in another sugya. There's a sugya in the Gemara that about chatzi shir asur min Torah or not asur min Torah. Well, the chatzi shir is a portion of a shir, meaning, let's say Yom Kippur, so eating koseves agasa, the amount of a date, or let's say chazer and all sorts of other isurim where you eat a kazayas. So what if you eat less than a kazayas? Is it prohibited or not? So Rav Yochanan holds it's prohibited. Harei de beisurin ein b'shir nafka mina ela gabi ha'onesh. So says Rav Yochanan. Anyways, it's prohibited. What's the shir for? It's just for the punishment. So the that's what the Rashash says. But it is obvious, says the Rashash, that Rabbi Yochanan would agree that shiurim of mitzvahs are halacha l'Moshe Misinai. Now, so that's a little difficult because he does seem to say that it is just the shiurim of onshin that is halacha l'Moshe Misinai. So we now have three sources. We have the core source in Sukkah Daf Hey and in Eruvin, a parallel sugya, which says shiurim are halacha l'Moshe Misinai, implying all shiurim. The Yerushalmi says it explicitly. All shiurim are halacha l'Moshe Misinai. Seemingly contradictory sugya is a Gemara in Brachos that ends that shiurim are d'Rabbanan, and the pasuk is an asmachta. There are those that said the Maritz Chai says that was a girsa problem, but the simple Gemara as we have it is that it's d'Rabbanan. A third sugya is this Gemara in Yuma that implies that the shiurim of punishments, only the shiurim of punishments are halacha l'Moshe Misinai, implying that others are d'Rabbanan, I guess. Now, there's a Yerushalmi that clearly says that you can't wiggle out of, meaning you could wiggle out of the Gemara in Brachos by saying it's a problematic here. And you could wiggle out of the Gemara in Yoma by saying that it is not only the shir of onshin, that Gemara that is halacha l'Moshe, that is halacha l'Moshe Misinai, but really it's obvious that the shirim of mitzvahs are halacha l'Moshe Misinai. But Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that chatzi shir asur min Torah, he had to say that the limits, that the amounts are relevant only for onshin. But there's a Gemara, there's a Rabbi Yonah in the Yerushalmi, who says that shiurim are midrabanan, again, he's relating to the shear of the, if I'm not mistaken, the Korban Re'iyah, and he says, "V'chol shiurim lo chachamim hein shenat." Aren't the chamim the ones that gave the shiurim? Kazayis min hameis, kazayis min havela, kadash min hasheretz. So those seem to be this Rabbi Yonah is the shita that we're going to have to reckon with no matter what. The fact that there is a shita in Chazal that shiurim are derabanan is a very interesting approach. Now, there is another Gemara which I wanna mention here. I won't dwell on it now, at least. Second spotlight. Here we are. So now there is a Gemara that we have. Amar Rabbi Elazar, a Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Elazar, ha'ochel chelev bizman hazeh. Somebody who eats prohibited fats, bizman hazeh, tzarich shichtov lo shir. He has to write how much he ate. So let's say he unknowingly, he ate some of this forbidden fat. So he should write down, I had whatever, 80 grams of the fat. Okay, why? Shemi yavo beistin acher v'yarbe b'shurim. Lest it could be the later basting when the Beis Hamikdash is rebuilt, and then we're going to be he'll be getting the punishments for the averas that he did. So, he'll be able to offer sacrifices. So it'll have to be checked. Does he offer a chatas? Does he not offer a chatas? Well, it could be a later basting will come and make bigger shiur. And then maybe what he ate would not be mechayev a chatas. Wow. That seems like shiurim are openly d'Rabbanan, and the rabbis of the rabbis of a later generation, the Sanhedrin of a later generation, might make a takana that the shiurim are bigger. So that's interesting. So the Achronim explain on that, and he quotes a number of them for commentaries. The lo chayshinan sheishtanu ashiurim acharei shenimseru ashiurim mesinai. If the shiurim were halacha l'mishmi Sinai again, this Gemara seems to apply that the shiurim are d'Rabbanan. Why? Because it seems to imply that a later basting could come up with a different shiur. So all those achronim say that it's not that we're worried that it's not that shiurim are d'Rabbanan and we're worried that a later basting is gonna change it. We might be worried that basting abayim acharim, the later basting yochichu berayos the osu ashira muchzak biyadenu taosu, that a later basting will prove that what we thought was a kazayis is not really a kazayis. The shir acher nimsel l'Moshe Sinai, and there was really another shir that was given l'Moshe Sinai, and that seems to be the pashtus of the sugya, the simple understanding of that passage. There's no havamina from the Bavli that again that shiurim are midrabanan. V'lo nimtza makor l'zel b'Yerushalmi. It's only a Yerushalmi. Now, still nimtza efo. It ends up mikol anal from all that we've read. De'afta kaimelan b'chama makomos t'shiurim halacha l'Moshe Sinai. That shiurim, even though we hold that shiurim are halacha l'Moshe Sinai, which is biblical level, pure oral Torah, not written in the Chumash, only alluded to in that pasuk, but that's really not. It's not a source. There is an approach that says that shiurim are minarabanan. That's Rabbi Yonah in the Yerushalmi. So there is such an approach, and that even if there's one amora somewhere, we have to explain it. Now, it's very difficult to take this at face value that it's just a Rabbanan. Why? Two reasons. Number one, That shear of Chatzi Shir Osim in Torah. Well, what is the Gemara saying? That Rabbi, first of all, according to Reish Lakish, underneath the shear was not prohibited biblically, and the Rabbanan came and they prohibited, according to this. Sorry. The Torah prohibits a kazayas. So it seems like clearly the shear is midoraisa. Second of all, and now let's say Rabbi Yochanan, who holds Chatzi Shir Osim in Torah. So there's a biblical prohibition even on a mashal. So what did the Rabbanan do? What kind of a halacha is it that the Rabbanan would come and create to make shiurim? Let me just, I want to share the I want to read this part inside. Give me a moment. Just a moment. Yeah. It ends up, if you say what are you saying if you say that the shiurim are d'Rabbanan? That the Torah didn't give you a shiur. That means that the Torah said even a little bit is prohibited. Right? Because it's a biblical prohibition. So then it ends up then that the rabbis made a shiur. So then what is this argument in the Gemara about whether a portion of a shiur is prohibited or not? Since there's no shiur biblically, so there's no chatzi shiur. You can't have a chatzi shiur if you don't have a shiur. I hope that's clear. And maybe you say, well, Rabbi Yochanan, who says that Chatzi Shir Osim in Torah, he is consistent. He's the one that holds that Shiurim are Halach L'Moshe Misinai. But still, there's another problem, and that is that just a moment, back to our shiur. Right. Another problem is the following. Why would the Chachamim make such a law? Okay, he has a problem that it's not going to work out with the sugya there. But just think about it. What are the Rabbanan's laws? They're either fences to prevent people from doing an avera, like on a Torah level, beef and milk is prohibited, and the rabbis came and they prohibited chicken and milk. Or there are things that are what he calls making the shleimus of avodas Hashem. The Rabbanan wanted to make sure that we would have a complete experience of avodas Hashem and take things like avas Hashem and yiras Hashem and bitachon, all these biblical directives, and make them part of our lives. So they were attacking all sorts of things like brachos and the losh and tefillos and hallel, all sorts of things. Plus, you have takanas, which are social takanas, things like the ksuva to make sure the marriage works properly, and all sorts of decrees that are part of the business world. But what would be the sheer? What would be this takana of making a sheer, of saying that even though on a biblical level a little bit is prohibited, what are they doing? They're saying that we're going to be makil and say that all these dinim only apply, even though on a biblical level they apply, they're going to make some halacha that they don't apply unless you have a shear. What, on a biblical level, even a tiny bit of a bone would create tuma, but the Rabbanan say no, only if it's the size of a barley. Really, on a biblical level, it's usher to eat any, let's say, Rish Lakish. It's usher to eat any pork. Came the Rabbanan and say, no, only a kazayas. That's very strange. What kind of adin is this? Just to summarize, this doesn't involve, distancing people from a sin. Lo shevach v'hoda, it doesn't involve any kinds of praises and thanks to God. Below tikkun olam, it doesn't solve any social problems. Ubishlema gabe shirim mitzvahs, matzina lemember the minatorah, dem yotzei yedei chavasa b'achilas kol. I can understand when it comes to a mitzvah. You can say, well, really you would fulfill your mitzvah matzah if you just ate a tiny bit. The Chachamim came and they were metaking. You have to have a significant amount. That I can understand. There's a chumrah in the shir. Achlama kavu Chachamim shir ba'isurin. Why would the Chachamim make a shir and a prohibition? A little bit is prohibited already. So what does the shir do? So it's very difficult to explain that Yerushalmi, Rabbi Yonah, and Rabbi Hoshaya there in the simple understanding of the shir or the Rabbanan did. The davar mufrachu mitzad etzem darchei chachamim v'kavanasam. This is very literally, it's broken. This is a very difficult way of understanding things. It doesn't fit into the way we're used to chachamim making dinim, making zeras. So he has there are different approaches. Now we're going to give now in our last minutes here the two approaches that he quotes here. The Tzlach, which is Rabbi Yechezkel Landau of Prague, the Noda B'Yehuda, who we met before in our very first Chaburas. And then the second one is the Netziv of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin. And each one applies an idea that we find elsewhere. The Tzlach says as follows. Yes, Shirim are Alech L'Moshe Misinai. And there are a whole list of Shirim that are given. Kizayis and Kebetza and Amma and Tefach and Kadasha and Kedei Achilas Pras, etc., Koseves Hagas, all these different shiurim. What did the Rabbanan do according to that approach in the Yerushalmi? So the one who says that they're Rabbanan, either the Yerushalmi or the Girsa of the Gemara in Brachos that we have, or maybe Rabbi Yochanan on things that are in prohibitions. So the Rabbanan fit the particular shiurim with the appropriate dinner. Meaning, the Rabbanan said you should know a kazayas applies to all these eating prohibitions, and kibetza applies to birkas Muslims, and etzem is kisora. Now there are parallel ideas. Sometimes you have a machlokas about things that are derived from the principles of Torah interpretation. like Gezerah Shava. And you have a machlokas. How can you have a machlokas? We have a principle that a person doesn't make a Gezerah Shava by himself. So how could you ever have rabbis arguing? Wouldn't everybody have gotten a tradition from their rabbeim about a Gezerah Shava? How would you ever have such a thing? So it's not like a kal v'chomer where a person could make his own kal v'chomer. So one of the answers they give was that they knew some things about the Gezerah Shava, but they didn't know everything. Like they knew they knew that this halacha was learned out, but they didn't know through which word. Whatever, they had a Gezerah Shava, they just didn't know some aspect of it. There's a parallel also with regards, there's 18 lists of treifos, of different things that will render an animal a treifa. Treifa is simply put an animal that we don't think is going to, based on these physical symptoms in the animal, it won't live a year. So one of the Achronim, the author of the Crazy Uplesi, so he writes that that we knew the treifas, but just the Rabbanan linked them to the different limbs. That's the Tzlach's approach. So we don't really mean it's D'Rabbanan. We just mean it's purely D'Rabbanan. We mean there was D'Rabbanan involvement in it. We knew there was a shear, but the Rabbanan fit it to the mitzvahs. The Netziv has a whole other approach. The Netziv says, and I've told this to Yehuda Berlin, so he's the Rosh Hashiva of Volozhin, and the author of many wonderful svarim. One of his svarim is the Hamek Shaila. He wrote a commentary on the Shiltos, which was one of the books from the times of the Gonim, and he has a long introduction there about all sorts of things in Torah history, Torah Shabbal Peh. And so he says, we don't mean that shiurim are purely rabbinic. What we mean is that the shiurim were halacha l'Moshe Sinai, they were forgotten, and they were reconstructed by the Rabbanim. We have a tradition that that when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, I think I got it, or is that Yeshua? Osniel ben Kenaz, when Yeshua passed away. Hope I didn't mess it up. When Yeshua passed away, Osniel ben Kenaz was the first of the Shoftim. So he reconstructed all sorts of forgotten halachas that were forgotten during this mourning period. And so when the Yerushalmi says that the Chachamim said it, it's that the Chachamim reconstructed the shiur. And the Brisker Rav says a similar thing. Again, this doesn't sound like this is a little difficult because it doesn't fit smoothly into the look of the Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi just says the Chachamim said it. It doesn't say it. The Gemara does sometimes say Shchachum v'chazru v'yasju. Gemara says that, for instance, about the which letters are the otiot sofiot and which letters mem nun mansapach, mem nun tzadi pei chaf. So they all have a letter that, as it appears in the letters of the word, and they have another kind of symbol that appears when it appears at the end of the word. A final mem, a final nun, a final tzadi, a final pei, a final chaf. So the Gemara says that they knew that there were these two kinds of letters, but they didn't know which ones were in the end of the word, which ones in the beginning of the word, and they reconstructed it. But it was something that was given. It was given earlier. It wasn't a change in the Torah. It was a reconstruction. So you have sometimes where there was something the Rabbanan didn't create a din. They helped us figure out what the din Halacha l'Moshe Sinai really was. So those are the two approaches to our difficult Gemara. There seems to be, against the strong basic source, that shiurim are Halacha l'Moshe Sinai. All the shiurim, like the Yerushalmi says, or like the Bavli implies, all the shiurim are Halacha l'Moshe Sinai, pure oral Torah on biblical level. There is this source in the Bavli, in the Yerushalmi, and maybe one in the Bavli, that shiurim are Rabbanan. Tzlach says the Rabbanan helped fit the shiurim to their appropriate mitzvahs, and the Netziv says the Rabbanan reconstructed what those shiurim were, but really it was Allah Moshe Misian. Next week, God willing, we'll discuss Rav Asher Weiss's approach to what it means that shiurim are D'Rabbanan, and then it will give us a whole different approach. PowerPoint. I always I'll always I always put up the PowerPoints on the link. You'll see a link in the bottom of every email. I'll send the link right away with the recording and relatively right away, with the recordings and the PowerPoint. At the bottom of the emails that I send out, I have links to both the recorded and the written material. So God willing. Anyways, be well. Have a wonderful week.